Joseph, thank you so much for sitting down with us today, spontaneously on the Land and Everything Else podcast. It's great to meet you. And if you could share just a little bit about what you do and who you are.
So my name is Jeff Post. I'm with People's Company, and I have been with People's Company since January 2nd of 2020. And it's been one of the best experiences that I could ask for. And what I do within People's Company is I'm one of the supervising or employing brokers, and I'm licensed in 20 states, and 6 of those states I am the direct employing broker for those 6. So
okay,
that's my role.
So I want to share a little bit about what our podcast does. Is we kind of try to bring land and the alt space to that intermediary financial advisor, insurance agent, broker dealer, so they can learn more about the world of alts and how their clients might get invested and how their clients may adopt alternate asset classes in a traditional portfolio. And so could you share a little bit about what does the People's Company do to that end?
It would actually be easier to explain what People's Company doesn't do.
I love where we're going here. Keep it going, man. I love this.
So we have a brokerage arm. We have an appraisal arm. We have a asset management arm or farm management, depending on how you want to look at that. And then we also have oil and gas management. And then kind of separate holdout would be an investment entity that will pursue purchases for other individuals.
Okay. So from a investor standpoint, right? I am an accredited investor. I'm interested in going into alternative investments. What kind of options might the People's Company offer that I could look at and say, oh, okay, those are just sort of investments? Maybe you could share a little more about the type, design, that kind of thing.
Absolutely. I think one of the neatest options that we have is People's Company was one of the first to tokenize ownership of farm ground. So you use an example of 80 acres, and you might break that up into smaller investment chunks of, I think, as little as $5,000 is what it would take to come into that type of a scenario. Because a lot of people in the investment space who have not been in the land game before understand that it takes such a large down payment to get in it, that will chase people out of the sector, and People's Company's tokenization of that will allow anybody into it. We also have a Delaware Statutory Trust, also known as a DST, that is an option for someone coming out of a 1031. That is a wonderful space to be in. And then the company as a whole, on occasion, will put together transactions that people can be a part of, different from the tokenization, because it might be, you have X amount, you have a minimum amount that you have to put in to be a part of that.
Okay. So I'm going to follow up a little with you on tokenization, because I really love the idea. Mm-hmm. So, when on this podcast, we often talk about farmland as this kind of one chunk asset class, when it's actually not by any means, right? Within farmland, you have all sorts of diversification, just like you do within equities, right? With equities, we've got large cap, mid cap, small cap, we've got sector, we've got, startup versus value and growth, right? So within equities, you've got all these different asset classes. So tokenization, I wonder if you could speak a little bit about, what types of land assets using tokenization, what kind of portfolio could I build? What kind of different subtypes of land could I get into there?
On the tokenization end, you're going to want to stick with the income producing asset class. There are individuals in the quote unquote land game that will do a buy and hold to preserve the value and nature of a property, as opposed to, and then we'll capitalize on the appreciation 10, 20, 30 years down the road. The tokenization is based solely on a bare bones income producing property, because you have to be able to pay out
sure
on that. So does that help to answer your question?
Okay. Yeah. So it's more of an income strategy.
It's more of an income strategy that's going to have an annual pay out because typically cash rent is paid on an annual basis, or you would sell product coming off of the farm on an annual basis.
Fantastic. That's what I was looking for there. And then I guess another question for you. We ask all our guests on this podcast kind of two big questions. So I'd like to propose the first one to you, and then the second. And
oh my!
No right or wrong answers here. So let's say that this is kind of the case study question, right? You're working with, let's say, a physician, someone like me. I've got stocks, I've got bonds, I've got my retirement fund, I've got my 401k, whatever it is. And I want to start pursuing other asset classes in my portfolio. All right. So for that $100,000 or less investment, what kind of strategies might you suggest? And then, of course, the $100,000, $1 million, $2 million, $5 million investment, would you take a different path?
Some of this is going to be my personal opinion and also professional opinion along with that. For someone who's looking to invest $100,000, save more. If you want to be a sole owner, and 80. So I'm from central Nebraska originally.
Okay.
An 80-acre tract is going to cost you roughly $800,000. So you're going to want to have $320,000 as a down payment,
right? Because
my feeling with clients of mine that I've worked with in the past, I always tell them you want to have at least 40% as a downstroke, because then you don't need to feed that transaction throughout its life.
Okay.
Now, do you have to live by that? Absolutely not. 20%, you would be able to swing that same transaction with 100 that you have down. But as an asset class, you're blessed to receive a 4% year after year return. Aside from the appreciation that also comes along with that same asset, which will be realized upon a sale. But in today's interest rate environment, 4% does not work. So that's why my personal feeling is to stick with that 40% down, so you don't have to feed it. You can forget about it and enjoy the spoils.
All right. I walk in, I'm a bigger hitter. I got $1 million, $3 million, $5 million, somewhere in that range. How might that conversation change? The
conversation would change to what your comfort level is and what your tax situation is. Are you in a situation where you can just all out pay 100% cash for a property? Is it something that you want to use my same personal rule of thumb of putting 40% as a downstroke? Or do you want to risk more? Do you have additional income that will help feed that investment through a time which we're in right now, where interest rates are upside down from what land typically returns? So at that point, you need to be relying on your financial advisor and your accountant, because they will work a strategy that will help you the best. Is an interest write-off going to help me the most? Is depreciation involved with the asset going to help me most? What's going to be best? So
that actually tees our question I like to ask every guest.
Okay.
Is you're sitting down, you've got a broker, you've got a life insurance agent, you've got a CFP professional. What advice would you give them if they want their clients to start investing in alts? What advice would you give that intermediary as far as where to get education, maybe products to look into, things to make sure they look out for? What kind of advice might you give?
And you got to help me with the question a little bit.
All right. So yeah, no problem. I asked.
You've got
I was convoluted.
A stockbroker.
Yeah. So you're talking to a stockbroker, or you're talking to an insurance agent, or you're talking to a CFP professional. They come to you and they say, "Hey, my clients want to get into alts. What do I need to know? How do I get that information?"
Gotcha. You just need to know the number to People's Company. That's all you need to know. I wish I had a better answer, but I have been in this business since 1997, and I just surpassed my 4th year with People's Company. So I've got a lot of experience in the game, and I have worked for myself. I've worked with another company, And I also went back to work with myself. I can sit here today unbiased because I haven't been with People's Company for very long, but there is no other company in this game like People's Company. Right. That is the best answer that I can give you, because I don't care what part of the country that person's client is, they're going to be taken care of.
Well, I love to hear that.
So and that is not biased. To back up that statement, my mother unfortunately passed away in October. She was a longtime client of mine. And when we joined People's Company, my own mother came to me and said, "This is a lot better now that you've joined this other company than it was when it was just you doing it." So that will tell you, I mean, if my own mother's going to go against the service that I was providing for her prior to and saying that it's better now that we've joined, that'll tell you something about it.
That's definitely a strong recommendation.
Yes.
Well, thank you for your time today. We appreciate having you.
Happy to be here.
Thank you.